Alright. Hey, I'm Dave from Sidewalk Prophets, and you are watching Mike Wolf's amazing YouTube channel.
It was a little chaotic and it was surreal, to be honest. And we lost a lot of stuff, but we realized how blessed we were in the midst of all of it. We had so many people that just kind of poured out their love on us, and it allowed us to continue and to not stop. And so 2 days into the tour, it could have been the end of the tour. But our goal, I think this tour has gotten even a deeper mission because of it. And we realized that the goal of every day of our lives is to kick Satan in the face. That's our goal. And he's not going to have the victory. This side of earth, sometimes he does. Sometimes he claims small victories over our lives. But I'm telling you, the battle's been won, that Jesus, took it all to the cross. And so we as a band, that's our calling, that's our hope, is to come and not play music, but to really just connect with y'all. And I hope you know that we're family in this place, brothers and sisters in Christ. And that's what the Bible, Jesus calls us that. He says, anyone that does the will of my Father is my brother, my sister, my mother. And so tonight, that's what we want to do. We want you to know you're not alone. We want you to feel the community. We want you to feel a part of this. You are welcome here, and we want to truly be something different, something that is set apart from the world that the devil hates. And we're grateful to be just that. And hopefully tonight, you know that you can bring your joy to the Lord too. You can see we got arcade machines out in the lobby. We have 3D glasses, which will come in at the intermission. Okay, so the first half you don't need them, but you look cool when you wear them. But the second half is when it all starts, the 3D part. But we're out here with our good friends Bon Ray as well. They are Pennsylvanian. They're from Philadelphia, and they are surfers. Okay, surfers. And I didn't know you could be a Pennsylvanian surfer, but they do. The four of them together, 3 brothers and a sister, and they just bring a lot of joy to this tour. They've been incredible tour partners, and honored to have them with us. So that's a little bit about the tour in a nutshell. That's what our great hope is that you guys just show up and feel like you had a great time, but also feel like you're prepared to go out and be something different that the world just sees and says, what's up with that guy? Like, what does he have that I don't? What does she have? I need that. And we can say, I know what it is. It's knowing and loving Jesus Christ, and that hope, that joy that comes from that. So that's our hope for this tour. But before we dive in, we call this time Devos with Dave because I love to go into the Word. But before we do that, if you guys have any questions for me about music, life on the road, anything but calculus, I will do my best to answer your questions. Anybody got anything? Yes, how long is it? Very. It is 44 shows, I think. We started February, right after the Super Bowl we started, and then we go until May 29th is our last show down in Texas. And it's been a long journey. Now, a normal week is maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday shows, and then we go home Monday, Tuesday, leave Wednesday. That's kind of becomes our normality, but the very first shows when we had that trailer fire, that was day number 2 of 3.5 straight weeks on the road. So it was just a terrible time to happen. But like I said, man, we pulled ourselves together. God poured out love on us, and we got to keep going. And that was a trying, crazy time. But man, since then we've been blessed. Even though it's a long tour, we've just been felt the love everywhere we've gone. So it's been great. Yeah. What was the best meal we've had on tour? Man, I'll be honest. Today it was awesome. I mean, you guys spoiled us. We had like a fajita bar at lunch, and we had some salmon tonight that smelled. If you smelled amazing smells, that was for us. That was awesome. And but when I was in the Florida Keys, I don't know if I've shared all this with my wife. I love seafood, and so Cho, our tour manager, is like, hey, just give me your card. There's going to be a runner. He can go get you seafood. Because I guess that night they decided to cook steak, which is awesome. And I was like, but I love seafood. So he went to a local seafood place, and I got this thing, and it was the local seafood broil. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever. It said market price, and I was like, cool. And then I get the bill. It was $68. So I hope this comes with half of a car because it was insane. It was delicious. I'm gonna say best meal of the tour because I spent half my salary on a meal in the Florida Keys. I don't know if my wife knew it was quite that much. I hope she's not in here, but I'll tell her later. But it was insane. It was a really good lobster tail. I'll say that much. So, but yeah, that was I guess that one takes the cake. But yeah, anybody else? It's not somebody. Yeah, I see, brother. The name Sidewalk Prophets, it came out from a desire not to be called 4 Floors to Heaven. That was our original name. We were the 4th floor of our dorm. There's a Z in the name, 4 Floors to Heaven, Roman numeral 2. And we were the closest to God because we were the top floor of our dorm. So we were 4 floors to heaven, almost there. And so we were like, that's super lame. We need to come up with something before we play chapel, or we'll forever be this lame name. And so we came up with the prophet part first. My buddy Ben, who's our manager now, he came up with prophets. In the dictionaries, it says someone that tells the truth about life. And I love that, man. That's what we want to be, men that are speaking the truth about Jesus' love. And then Sidewalk came from a Jars of Clay song. They're an incredible band that I loved growing up. And it said, images on the sidewalk speak of dreams descent, washed away from storms to graves of cynical lament. And I just pictured a man walking down the sidewalk, and right there is an image that God wanted him to see. But he's so worried about trying to figure things out and trying to do it on his own that he walks right by what God intended. And then rains come and wash it away. And that cynicism sinks in about who God is. And just this beautiful line of poetry is a great reminder that we need to be men that are speaking the truth about life, being those prophets, but also we need to be listening to God wherever he shows up. And the only way you can do that is by staying in prayer, by making time for God every day, and by reading his word. And so it just is a great reminder when we say our name that we need to be doing all those things, praying, staying in the word, spending time with God, as well as speaking the truth. Because so many times we try to speak the truth, and we haven't listened to what God is actually saying to us. So we want to be men that are doing both. Sidewalk Prophets. Yeah. Well, college, Anderson University in Anderson, Indiana. And it's a little tiny Church of God college. And Stephen Curtis Chapman, Bill and Gloria Gaither started the music department there. And Sandy Patty, as well as our buddy Jeff Owen, who's the lead guitarist for 10th Ave. He was on our dorm floor when we started Sidewalk Prophets. And our buddy John McLaughlin is also, just an insane amount of musical talent that came through. And I was an English major there, so I just got to listen to a lot of the awesomeness and start a dorm band. So it was great. But, yeah. This Is Not Goodbye is the song that we get asked about the most, other than all of our radio songs. So it's the one that we didn't release. I would love to someday release it to radio to be played, but I hate to say the reasons I wrote it, but because it means so many things to so many people. But the truth is, it was a song that we wrote with a buddy of ours years and years before. Right as we moved to Nashville, it was one of the first songs we ever wrote there in town, and it was terrible. It sounded like a Bad Boys to Men song, and we're like, we asked the guy, because we're like, hey, can we take the idea and decompose, like, just take it back and try something else, just my buddy Ben and I. And the guy's like, sure, no problem. And that's rare, because a lot of times when people write with you, they want this percent or this percent of it, and hey, that idea was partially mine, and you can battle it out, but this man he was so generous. He's like, yeah, go ahead. So we took that song, and we kind of just meditated on it, we prayed about it, and one morning I woke up with the line, this is not goodbye, it's just I love you to take with you until we're home again. And I realized that I think that came from a lot of places. My mom dropping me off at college, my friends that had moved away, one of my friends moved away senior year of high school, so we didn't get to finish senior year together. And then, of course, my grandparents who had passed away, knowing that promise that it's not goodbye, it's I love you until we're home again. Whether that be in heaven, whether you come back to your hometown and have that reunion, wherever you're at. As Christians, we have an incredible opportunity because we know that goodbyes are never goodbye if you have Christ in your heart. And I think that that's kind of the heart of that song, just knowing that promise that he gave to the thief on the cross. That guy did not deserve to go to heaven. And to be honest, none of us do. But he looked right at that thief who was hanging there and realized that he didn't deserve to be hanging next to Jesus. And he asked him to remember him. And Jesus said, I promise you this, you'll be with me in paradise. And that promise, man, it bridged this gap of wonder. It bridged this gap that in the midst of Jesus' hurt and pain, that thief was on his heart, right next to him. And all of us are, when he passed on that cross, when he poured out his blood for us. Anybody else? Yeah. Some of my favorite artists, my vocal inspirations, if you ask, I would say that they're the four M. I'll say the four M's because Michael Tate told me I had to say him, and it's true. DC Talk, come on, y'all. He's amazing, still is amazing. Michael Tate, but also Michael Jackson was my first musical hero. I was like, man, I think I was 3 years old, and I would just ask Grandma if we could listen to Michael Jackson. Grandma was like, no. And I was like, come on, Grandma. And then Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey, I love her voice. And then Mickey Mouse, because every Disney song ever, there's one Disney song, it's the song that the caterpillar sings in Alice in Wonderland. It's the first, when I put my iPod into the car, A-E-I-O-U by the caterpillar from Alice, because it's that A-E-I-O-U, it is the first thing that plays, and it is so annoying. Okay, it is a terrible song. So other than that song, I love, and We Are Siamese from Lady and the Tramp. But other than that, I love every Disney song. Okay, Aladdin, Lion King. Just stick with those. You're good to go. So other than those two, every Disney song. But those are my vocal influences. I love. But man, my dad's record collection. We'd get in the car. He'd be playing Billy Joel and Bread and America, and then my mom was way cooler, so she had like Led Zeppelin and the Beatles, and like my mom does not seem that cool, but she did. She worked it out somehow. The Monkees, she loved the Monkees. So like all those things came together in high school. I loved all these bands, and then I got to high school, and then a little band called DC Talk and Third Day and Jars of Clay and Audio Adrenaline and Newsboys all released albums that allowed me to see that you could take these incredible music, you can take this incredible music and you can couple it with this love of Jesus and rock for Jesus. And that was a huge, huge blessing that all those bands decided to break through, I guess, in the year 1995 and 96, right when I was really deeply engrossed in music. And I was so grateful for them as well. So. And nowadays, I'm contractually obligated to say Matthew West because he sang at my wedding, and so I have to say him at every, yeah. Isn't that cool? Matthew was in Dallas, Texas, and his father was the first man that ever prayed over my wife and I. We were on tour, and we were on Matthew's bus, and we were watching a movie, and Joe West, his dad's so amazing. He opens the door, he goes, oh, and he's like, I'm sorry. I was like, no, come in, let's she needs to go home, let's pray together. And Joe prayed over us. Then I said, Matthew, you gotta come. My wife would dream since she was a little girl of you singing at our wedding. And he's like, man, way to make me feel old, Dave. And then I said, no. And he came, he flew, him and his dad flew from Dallas and the next day, and they were in Chicago for our wedding, and they played and prayed at our wedding. So I love Matthew. He's just such a great guy and great heart. So, and yeah, 5 days ago was my 1-year anniversary. So, yeah, it's been great. Thank you. And she's out there at the table doing our merchandise. So, but yeah, so bless me, Harmony, Miss Harmony. Yeah. Anybody else have a couple questions left? Let's see. You doing over there? Hey. What's up? How do you feel about pickled eggs? I don't know. It's been a long time since I had pickled eggs. I assume you were there at the Del Grosso or the Del Grosso? Okay. Yeah, we crashed a birthday party at Del Grosso Park after we played one time, and I'd never had a pickled egg, and that was the last time I had a pickled egg. Was there? It's not like I'm anti, but it's just like it's not something that you see every day, and then if you see it, you're not like, hey, I need that today. And it's like, I think I'm gonna let that one ride. But it was good. It was an experience. So, yeah. We started the band 16 years ago in Anderson University, and then we moved to Nashville about 11 years ago and put an ad on Craigslist. It was just Ben and I. A lot of our band members were staying in college or getting married or becoming lawyers, lame stuff like that, and they didn't want to stay with us. And we moved to Nashville just on a hope and a prayer. The two of us had a bunch of church camps booked, and so Cal, our bass player, he'll be over here tonight. But Cal joined us through Craigslist. Said, "Who wants to be poor and worship Jesus?" And I was like, "Better than." And he literally worked in a cornfield in Illinois, so he's like, "Better than that." So, and then Dan joined us about 4 years ago, our lead guitarist, through a YouTube tryouts kind of thing. 100 people tried out. We like to say Dan is our bachelor because he received the rose after the 100 people kept going with us. And then Travis, our drummer, has been with us since last. I think it was last fall he joined us, and man, we're loving time with him. And then Blake, our Pennsylvania connection, he's from State College, Pennsylvania. And Blake, our keyboardist, yeah, he is man of many, many talents. You'll see him play like 6 instruments, I think, maybe 7 instruments just tonight. He plays so many instruments, but also he drives our bus when we're on really long drives. He'll step in. He's our sub bus driver, and he also made all the 3D content, and he's been with us for about a year and a half now. So, but yeah, we got an eclectic group of dudes up here. It's a lot of fun. So, yeah. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, as a Star Wars fan, I'm probably an 7.9. 7.9, which means I really enjoy, I love going to the movies. Now Dan, our big Dan, he is a 9.9, and he has friends that have worked on the movies. He used to live in San Francisco, is where he's from, and so he had some folks that have worked on the movies. He has been given props from the movie. And Dan is just a Star Wars nut. And then Blake actually installed R2-D2 on top of our bus, so he's a pretty big Star Wars buff too. So I think we just like fun things, and Back to the Future and Star Wars in the 80s, and I think that's kind of how this tour even came together. So, but yeah, we got our Star Wars shirt. You look good. You look good in that Star Wars shirt. That's great. So, yeah. Come to the Table is a song that we wrote with our buddy Ben and Ben Glover, and we wrote Live Like That with him as well. And he's got a great mind for melodies and music. And I remember him sitting down with Ben and I, and it's like, man, what should we write about? What is it that's on your guys' heart? And one thing that we noticed time and time again was people that would come to our shows and just feel like they were unwelcome in the church, feel like they weren't welcome. And maybe you've been to churches that have felt that way. Maybe you still are. Where you feel you walk in and people kind of turn away from you or turn their noses down and don't want to look you in the eye, and you just feel this unwelcomeness. And it happens at church, it happens on the street, it happens everywhere. And I think that idea of feeling welcome is what Jesus is all about. If you look at the disciples, and that's what we did. I wrote down what each disciple was when we wrote that song, because I wanted to know. And I realized that a lot of them were just fishermen, They just went out there and they fished, and that's how they made their living. And that was not a great job, necessarily. They weren't looked upon highly as these fishermen. But they had the fishermen, they had tax collector, and they had a Judas who ended up being a thief and a liar. And yet those are the people that Jesus surrounded himself with. That's who he called. Then you have Mary Magdalene, who was a complete outcast of society. And that's who Jesus said, I want to hang out with her. And then you have, all these people throughout the Bible. And that line came to Ben's mind. It said, we're just a motley crew of misfits. We're all messed up. I think when I hear that line, I think of a band of pirates. It just says, society is tossed aside. And what really came to mind was the Lost Boys in Peter Pan. That's what I figured. I figured, man, the disciples were just like them. They were orphans that have been left out, an outcast. And so Peter Pan comes and he gives them a place to belong. And I think that Jesus is not Peter Pan. But what he is he's a man that loves deeper than we'll ever know. And he wants everyone to know him as God, as Savior, but also as the closest friend you'll ever have. As someone you go to with small and great big things. And he wants to spend time with you. And so for me, that just cuts through it. And so I pictured that scene in the movie Hook. And if you guys have seen Hook, it's Robin Williams as Peter Pan, and he goes and sits down at the table with all these lost boys. And then all of a sudden, he finally believes that he's Peter Pan, and all his food appears, and then a giant food fight breaks out. And I said, wouldn't that be awesome if we get to heaven, and Apostle Paul's sitting there, and he's talking deeply, and then all of a sudden a roll smacks you in the face, and it was Peter just threw something at you, and then a food fight breaks out. It's just that joy, that joyful side of things. I think we sometimes leave that out of Christianity, because a lot of times it's heartbreak that leads us into the arms of the Lord. But man, I'm telling you, he doesn't just want your heartbreak. He wants that. He wants your sorrow, but man, he wants your joy as well. And so I think it'd be fun to start a food fight in heaven. I think it'd be really cool. And I think it goes to show, thief, doubter, hero, coward, prisoner, soldier, whatever it is you're calling yourself, you're welcome at the table of Jesus. And let that wash away and be replaced by him. And so that was kind of a long answer to your question, but all those thoughts kind of went into that song. So, well, thank you guys for your questions and your time. And before I get going, like I said, I want to just spend time in the Word and let you know what God's kind of been pouring into our lives. And kind of the theme verse of this tour it seems like, has been John 10:10, and it says, "The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come to give life and give it to the fullest." And John 10:10, I hear a lot, and I forget it a lot. And I think that that's one of the enemy's great tricks is just to, oh, you know these verses, you've heard them before or whatever, and you just let it gloss over and it becomes words. But man, how important that is. It meant something different to me before this tour started. The thief literally came to destroy our trailer. And a trailer is just a piece of thing, you know, it's just some stuff. Blake had a organ in it, and Dan had some amps, we had lots of merchandise, all these things that we lost. But Satan could not destroy what was most important, and that is just our desire to continue to press on and further our love of Jesus. And Jesus, man, he wrapped his arms around us that night, and all these nights after. And so that was just our example, but I know a lot of folks are coming in here facing just giant things, cancer and just loneliness and prodigal sons and daughters, and you're facing all these things. And you wonder where your hope and your help will come from. And a lot of times you say, hey, just go to the Lord in prayer. And it seems like he's silent. But I'm telling you, he is preparing your heart for something big. And a lot of times when those tragedies happen, I find out the reason that those tragedies happen is the devil is trying one last Hail Mary to stop you from whatever you're doing, so that whatever that giant, beautiful thing that Jesus is preparing won't happen. So you give up. And that's happened time and time again in my life, where I'm kind of on that doorstep and I'm wondering, and then something terrible will happen. I'm like, man, am I even doing what's right? And then God will say yes, and you keep going, and then just he opens up the floodgates and opens up the doors. And so I want to encourage you in that. Sometimes the devil does steal, kill, and destroys things, but sometimes it's just the little things, the joy that you have. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, and for the rest of the day, you're angry, and you've lost the joy that you had when you woke up. And so whatever it is that he's trying to pick away at you, don't let him, because Jesus didn't come to give his life. He came to give his life to the fullest. And the only way we know that is through just trusting in him, to giving him our hearts. And the more he increases, the more that flesh, that desire to have your own way starts to decrease. And his light just shines out. So let's just go to the Lord in prayer before we kick things off tonight. Lord, thank you for this time, for these folks, for being back here in Greensburg. Lord, we're so grateful. 6 years ago, we got to play here, and Lord, just to be back and feel the love of the folks in this church that gave their Fridays, that gave their time so that we might be able to come in and share your name. And it brings me to the floor just thinking about all the hands that made today happen. And Lord, I thank you for these folks. I thank you that they would come and spend some time early with me and just listen to me ramble. But Lord, I just pray some way, somehow, that whatever they're going through, maybe they're just here to celebrate, but whatever it is, that they bring it all to you, to the foot of the cross, Lord, where you died so that we might know that we're loved, so we might know what true love is. And Lord, you rose again, you're coming back. And those are the truths we need to believe. We need to believe them with all our heart. And if we do, we never, ever need to say goodbye. And that's the truth, Lord. We thank you for that promise that you gave to the thief on the cross. We thank you that the devil does come to steal, kill, and destroy, but you have already overcome him, and we know where our victory lies. So, Lord, we just come to you with all these things, with all these thoughts, and all these prayers, and all these battles, and we say, hey, they're yours, Lord. Take them from me. Rip them from me if you have to, but, Lord, sit in the throne of my heart. In your precious name, we lift this night up, and we ask you just for a joyful time, Lord, in your precious name. Amen. God bless you guys. I'm going to pass it over to Pastor Cho and a couple announcements.
We have been having a blast. We've been chatting about road life. They asked who the messiest was. I said Andrew because I didn't want to throw any of you guys under the bus. But we're going to go ahead and start with the game. All right, guys? So let's go ahead. We talked about the game, so they're ripping and raring to go. Do you want to do food or do you want to do Disney again? Disney. Audience
That kind of equalizes, yeah. Dan and I have not been on a team for Disney. This could be good.
All right. So we're going to do Disney. And do you want to just get it out of the way? All right. So we're going to let Dan start. Dan's going to start. So let me divide you guys up. Okay. You guys over, you're going to be on Cal and Blake's team, okay? You guys over are going to be on Dave and Dan's team, okay?
All right, Dave. You got to kind of walk over there. So everybody can see. Okay.
You're going to hear it over there.
Colors of the wind.
Good job.
I didn't make it a challenge.
All right. Good job, Steve. Move quick like they did. Okay, ready? Ariel.
He's from half.
Aurora.
Yeah.
Aurora.
It was a cartoon based on video games.
Wreck-It Ralph.
And Jane.
Ariel's dad.
John.
Cheetah. Oh, no. Tarzan.
The bad guy from Lion King.
Scar.
The monkey from Aladdin.
Abu.
Also from Aladdin. They flew on him.
Magic Carpet. Yep.
To Infinity and Beyond.
Buzz Lightyear.
You don't get to talk anymore.
Pluto.
The bird from Lion King.
Zazu.
Stay with me. My name is Little Bear. Brother Bear.
Yeah. I'm still thinking about that. I know.
Ooh, that means we tied. We tied for the first time.
Participation trophies for everyone.
Borderline.
All right, guys. Well, that was an awesome game. I don't think we've ever tied before, so I mean, yay for new beginnings. So we're gonna move to the time where you guys can ask these lovely gentlemen questions. So the floor is yours, guys.
Yeah.
I want to know what it was like for you guys, you especially, the first time or whenever you hear several hundred people singing your heart, singing your songs back to you. What does that feel like to you?
Man, that's a dream of yours since you start out on that journey, especially when you play for 16 years and the first 5 or 6 of them nobody cares. Like you're playing at a coffee shop and people are more interested in their muffins and stuff. And so for somebody to know your song and sing it back is a powerful thing. I think the most vivid time I remember, even just the last Winter Jam we were on, standing back and watching Crowder play and hearing people sing How He Loves, and like I'm standing side stage singing with David Crowder, and I'm like, how did I get here? Sometimes when you're on stage, you're like so into the moment. You want to interact with the audience, but you forget that. You forget that they're singing along. You got your ears in. You're making sure you're doing this and that, moving at this spot. And sometimes when you most need it, it seems like God just reminds you of what you get to do and how you get to do it. And yeah, it's been a pretty amazing journey.
On the cruise this year was really cool, was watching you. You were so in your element.
Thank you.
On the cruise, it was amazing.
On the cruise, we were just trying to stand up. Yeah. It was like the rockiest cruise. Matthew West, I think, almost toppled over to the audience one time. But I appreciate it, though. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah.
If you guys had to pick like one particular Christian artist that really inspired you to get into music, who do you think that would be?
That's cool. For me, it'd be Stephen Chris.
Rich Mullins.
Probably Chris Tomlin. It's hard to pick. It's hard to pick for me. It's all of them. The first one I ever listened to was Carmen. You guys ever heard of Carmen? Yeah. And then DC Talk, when Jesus Freak came out, it was like, what is this? Like, what in the world is going on? And I loved it so much. And then literally the next video on the TV, there was a music video channel for Christian artists, and DC Talks Jesus Freak, and the next video was Newsboys Take Me to Your Leader. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, I was like, as a freshman in high school, I was like, I want to be a part of this. And it was just a brilliant thing. So definitely those two bands for sure. Yeah.
First, I want to thank you for keep making me. It's doing a song. To me, that's rare. Thank you. I appreciate that. So if I could ask you guys 3 quick things, I'd like to. The Lisa's keyboard in Love You Anyway video. Was that prop? Was that really yours?
Oh yeah, that was mine. I used that on stage.
I have to say one.
6
That's
years.
That's great. Our drummer wants us to practice more often, so we're going to ask you guys, how much do you practice?
We don't practice. No, I'm just kidding.
sometimes later, just in a row, and we were obliterated by the end of it. And a lot of it was, just making sure video content synced up, and there's just so much that goes into it. And our crew was there before us and left after us, so they were the true heroes. And I tell you, man, because we play the show so many times. Sometimes you don't practice during the day, but when we're sound checking, we do. We go through just a day. There was a song that we needed to run through again because the last show didn't go down perfectly, and so we're like, hey, make sure, let's do it again. And so every day we really are honing in things. Cal's our music director, and so every day before the show starts, 30 minutes before or 15 minutes before Bon Ray goes on, we have a meeting and we just talk about, hey, be sure to do this tonight. Remember last night? You weren't here at this point. Like, come over this way. So just little things that you can always improve. There's never going to be perfect, but practice does make perfect. It does. Not perfect, actually. It makes it almost close enough. Yeah. Yeah.
A specific question. You're from Sidewalk. Welcome to Sidewalk.
Oh, awesome.
How did you get connected to the band? And what's your favorite ice cream flavor with the cream?
I'm going to ask that order of importance. Keeny Beanie. And they found me on Google. I was not looking to play music.
Yeah. It was amazing. Like, we pulled them in. I still don't know how
What
we
advice would you give me if I wanted to be in your shoes? Coming out of Sidewalk.
Well, I have no idea because I just had a graphic design website, and somehow they found that, and on it I casually mentioned that I play organ, and that's how they found me. I don't know, just do your thing and be good at it, and be nice and make friends. And
I think there's not a lot of keyboardists out there doing what, especially doing what Mike does. But like, you have to make sure you want to be on the road 200 days a year. It sounds like fun, and sometimes you're like, no, that means I have to sleep in my own bed less. No sick days. Yeah, no sick days. If you do, you just suck it up as much as you can.
I had mono for a whole month on the road.
And he played for 2 weeks straight, like in each day. It was like
I was like a frog.
I felt so bad. But he managed it. That was amazing. So, yeah.
What would you guys favorite food for today?
For today.
Yeah.
Yeah, the salmon was legit. You were serving us, man. I think
Chicken was good.
I think it was the joy of your service is what I feel. That's so true.
So your Christmas album is like hands-down my favorite Christmas
Thank you.
album of all time. Are you as much of a little kid when it comes to Christmas as the music makes it sound like you are?
Yes. I don't know about the rest of you guys. I'm kind of a little kid regardless, but I got a Switch for my birthday. I'm so excited. Like, I've been dropping hints like all year. Harmony's like Nintendo Switch. Yes, I got Mario for my birthday. But yeah, Christmas comes, man. My wife and I married a wife that loves to decorate, loves Christmas as much as I do, and so like our house is just insane. There's like Mickey thing here, and Snoopy thing here, and giant cross of awesomeness here, and nativity all over the place, and it's like it's awesome. I love it. On our honeymoon, on our first anniversary, we went to Gallenberg. There was a giant Christmas store, and my wife and I spent 2 hours in it, and it's like it's May, man. Like, what are we doing? It was all on sale. So I know they do smell. They have super cinnamon, super over the top. Yeah, I see over here.
This is my 6th time seeing you.
Awesome.
See you 600 more. What happened to Sam, your drummer?
Sam, he's in Detroit. He got married, is what happened. And then he realized like he wanted to do this with us, and then he got married, and he's like, I think I'm gonna stay at home with my wife and drum. I think he's a worship pastor, and he does the website for his church back in Michigan. But we love Sammy. We do.
And Justin did basically the same thing.
Justin is on his 4th child, and so it was into the 3rd child that Justin decided. He was our drummer for 9 years, and Justin came out with us last weekend because Travis had something going on, so it was so fun to get to have Justin drum alongside us again. So you missed him by a few days, but it was fun to have him back, and he fills in because man, we're still such great friends with him. But yeah, his 4th kid is coming really soon, hopefully in August. So yeah.
Keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, good.
Huge fan. The song "You Love Me Anyway." Is there a particular story behind that song, or is it just something to you?
That was probably the song that we moved to Nashville with. And the one that Cal heard and decided to join the band, the one that he gave to our record label that kind of perked their interest. And so it's just, it's a very important song, and it comes from just kind of a strange place. The first verse, the question was raised as my conscience fell, is about the murder of a goldfish. And really, I wanted to write a song from the first sin to the last day of my life. Jesus loves me. You know, from the first moment I failed him, he still was there. And so at 4 years old, I thought I was setting this goldfish free to, he was going to get a cramp if he kept swimming. And so he passed away. But the sin wasn't that. Like, I didn't know. But I blamed it on my friend. My babysitter came out. She's like, who killed Mortimer? I said, he did it. And my buddy stood in the corner. He was like 4. He didn't know what was going on. He stood in the corner while I watched cartoons. And so I felt this deep sadness come over me. And so the next Sunday at church, I confessed to my mother the murder that had occurred. And she said, it's okay. Jesus loves you even more than I ever could. And so in that moment, I realized that, man, if this God can love me more than my own mom, like at 4 years old, it blew my mind. And I got baptized the next Sunday. And so even though it's a silly story, like from the first moment that question was raised as my conscience fell, a silly little lie. That silly little lie, it was, Jesus already paid for that little 4-year-old lie. And he'll pay for my 35-year-old lies and the mess ups that I do, now. So 36 now, never mind. I just realized 3 days ago I turned 36.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah.
Do you ever get sick of singing some songs?
Sometimes, we play a lot of the same ones, so that's why Cal's is so important. Like when we practice, we usually try to tweak songs, and we don't play them just. If we played the album version over and over again, you better believe we get tired of it. We get to add a little guitar and vocal trade-offs and audience participation moments, and so that really freshens it up. But still, you also get to worship to them. With Keep Making Me, like you can't hardly sing that song and it not be feeling something. Because if you're asking God to truly make you broken or lonely, you better be making sure that you know why you're asking Him that and making sure that you're seeking Him first. Because some days are easier than others. But you had one more. I see your hand.
What inspired you all to get into music? And what was your first instrument?
First instruments, yeah. You want to start that?
Sure. So my parents loved music when I was a kid, and I liked music a lot. So mom had me start taking piano lessons when I was like 7 or 8, and liked that pretty well. And then picked up guitar and bass when I was in junior high. And I was listening to all kinds of music, and I wanted to play in a band, and so started playing in bands. And then when it came time for me to figure out what I wanted to do in college, I didn't really want to do anything except for play music. So studied music in college and moved to Nashville, Tennessee for that. My mom was a piano teacher, so I was coerced into learning and I hated it. But it eventually grew on me when I just remembered this, being home this past week. It was when my pastor's wife, she asked me to play both piano and a bongo solo on Daryl Evans' We Will Embrace. And I was really into that. I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah, so kind of the same. My dad, I played drums and guitar and stuff. And so from right away, I think at 3 years old, I had a little drum kit. So I played drums first, and then around 8, Dad was a big 80s rock kind of fan. And he introduced me to Van Halen and all those 80s bands. And then I want to play guitar when I was 8.
That was it. And Dan's a great drummer too. I have to say, when I was 2 years old, I got my Fisher Price record player, and I wouldn't stop listening to Michael Jackson's Thriller album. every Disney song, and those are the two things, man. I would have my record player with Jiminy Cricket, who is Pinocchio's conscience, and honestly, my favorite vocalists of all time are Michael Jackson, Sam Cooke, an incredible Motown singer, and Jiminy Cricket. Whoever sang Jiminy Cricket's voice, that guy is awesome, man. That vibrato is beautiful. And, yeah, so that's where I started singing, and my mom didn't shut me up.
Guys, thank you so much for your awesome questions. It was very fun to interact with you and your questions. Before we go into pictures, we'd love to just close out the night with prayer.
Yeah. Thank you so much again, Lord, just for this day, even for this room. It's such a fun place, and grateful to spend time with our family here. Lord, we just ask you just to empty us of whatever is keeping us from you. Lord, there's so many things that we carry that we don't have to, and a lot of it's worry and fear and doubt. And Lord, nobody's added a day to life by worrying. And so, Lord, we just ask you to take care of it, Lord. And sometimes it takes half a lifetime to hear an answer to prayer. But Lord, you're preparing our hearts for that day when you pour out on us. And so, Lord, we want to be faithful and trusting, even on those hard days. Lord, help us to overcome our own complacency and inadequacies and these things that we continue to pile on top of ourselves when actually all we need to do is just trust you and feel that your burden is easy and your yoke is light. And so, Lord, tonight, just fill us up. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
So, guys, I'm going to have you put your chairs on this side, and if you guys can, we're going to line up this direction over here. If you'll have your cameras ready to go, whatever you want signs, go ahead and have that out.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, guys. And three, two, one. I'm just super exhausted every night. I'm just like, alrighty, you guys ready? Yep. 3, 2, 1. Alright, one more. There we go.
Thank you. This is my Mother's Day present.
Is that Sunday?
Sunday.
Sunday. I was born on Mother's Day. I'm the ultimate Mother's Day. Jamie and Jody. Jenny. Oh, this is Jody. We met like 16. Come on in. Come on in.
Come on in.
Alrighty.
There's so many J's.
3, 2, 1. Alright, set change.
I know. She went as far as
You gotta get Jenny.
I know, because I know the singles. I got
1, 2, 3. Alright.
Jamie, you're so
Thank
sweet.
you, Jamie.
Thank you.
With a Y or a M? No, I'm straight. Jamie. I tried.
God knows what's going on. That's so amazing. Listen, thank you for sharing that story.
Alrighty, guys. 3, 2, 1. Alright, thank you so much for coming.
Be safe getting home, all right?
Alright. Just 1 second before we guys get one picture here. 1, 2, 3. Alright.
Sleepy and dopey? There you go.
Have a good night.
That's right, me.
You watch me turn around here.
Double gifts, right? Double gifts for you. That's my
Oh, nice.
The second half is to Tennessee in October.
Ooh, yeah.
Any last one?
God bless you. Oh, you better believe it. I love your White House.
You know what I mean?
All right, brothers.
Hey, what's nice meeting you?
You got it. I'll do that right now. Probably just do it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Pretty bad, but I appreciate it.
Yep.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, I'm Dave from Sidewalk Province, and you are watching Mike Wolf's amazing